All right, let's dive in. Today, we're tackling a topic that is so important for our health and well-being, but let's be honest, can also be super awkward to talk about: sex. It doesn't matter if you're a counselor, a healthcare professional, or really just anyone who wants to have better, more open conversations. This explainer is all about giving you the tools you need. So let's get into it. Let's just be real for a second. This quote absolutely hits the nail on the head, right? There's this universal discomfort. It can feel like you're walking on eggshells, whether you're the one asking the questions or the one trying to answer them. And look, it's totally okay to feel a bit awkward about it. But what's not okay is letting that awkwardness become a wall that stops a really vital conversation from happening.
Yeah, because when we dodge these conversations, we're basically creating this vacuum, right? And that vacuum gets filled up with all sorts of things: misinformation, bad assumptions, and a lot of unnecessary risk. So the answer isn't to just stay quiet. It's to learn how to talk. Navigating these chats is a skill, and it's 100% a skill that you can learn.
Okay, so before we even get into what to say, we've got to talk about the how. How do we actually create a space where someone feels safe enough to talk about their most private behaviors? Well, it all starts with setting up some clear rules of engagement.
I think what's so great about this is how it just lays out the foundation for a good conversation. On one side, you have the do's. These are the building blocks for trust. Things like being proactive and normalizing what people are going through. And on the other side, you've got the don'ts. These are like wrecking balls for the conversation, making assumptions, cracking jokes at the wrong time. It's a really clear roadmap of what works and what, well, really doesn't.
Let's really zoom in on a couple of these do's, because they're so important. First, bringing up the topic of sex proactively, that sends a huge signal that this is a normal, okay thing to talk about. And this next one is just key: using the same words the client uses. If they say partner, you say partner. It sounds simple, but mirroring their language like that builds trust almost instantly. It shows you're actually listening, not judging.
And now for the pitfalls, the things to avoid. Assuming someone is straight can just slam the door on a conversation before it even starts. It makes people feel like you don't see them. And that last one is especially big for professionals. This conversation isn't about you. The second you start sharing your own stories, you shift the focus and can totally break that trust you've been building. The whole point is to keep the space focused 100% on them.
So once you've got that foundation of respect built, the very next layer is all about language. Using the right terms isn't just about being, politically correct. It's about showing that you actually get the fundamental concepts of who people are.
Okay, first up, biological sex. This one is pretty straightforward. It's about physical stuff: chromosomes, anatomy. It's the label you're assigned at birth. Then we have gender identity. Now, this is all internal. It's a person's own deep, private feeling of what their gender is. And the most important phrase here is may or may not match their biological sex. That distinction, it's everything. And the third piece of the puzzle is sexual orientation. This is all about attraction, who you're drawn to, romantically, emotionally, sexually. And you can see how it's completely separate from biological sex and gender identity. And this is the crucial takeaway right here. You've got these three different things: biological sex, gender identity, and sexual orientation. Think of them as three totally separate pieces of who a person is. They are absolutely not interchangeable. And getting that separation, really understanding it, is the key that unlocks a truly respectful and informed conversation. So, you might be wondering, where does the word transgender fit into all of this? Well, it's a big umbrella term for anyone whose gender identity is different from the sex they were assigned at birth. So, for instance, a trans woman is someone who was assigned male at birth, but their internal sense of self, their gender identity, is female. Now let's see how these distinctions actually matter in the real world. Take the terms men who have sex with men, or MSM, and gay. You might think they're the same, but they're not. MSM is just a description of a behavior. It describes an action, not who someone is. A man could be married to a woman, not identify as gay at all, but still be considered MSM. Gay, on the other hand, is an identity. It's a sexual orientation. And knowing that difference is so important for giving the right kind of healthcare and support without just jumping to conclusions. And you guessed it, the exact same idea applies to women who have sex with women, WSW, and lesbian. WSW describes a behavior. Lesbian describes an identity and an orientation. A woman might have sexual experiences with other women, but not identify as lesbian or bisexual. Separating what people do from who people are is absolutely critical for communicating with respect and accuracy. Okay, so We've got the rules for creating a safe space, and we've got the right language. Now, how do we actually use all this in a practical chat about health and safety? Well, this is where getting a handle on the spectrum of risk is just so incredibly helpful.
It's a pretty direct question, isn't it? But it's one that a lot of people have and might be too afraid to ask. Knowing the answer is what empowers us to make smarter, more informed choices about our own health.
So let's break this down. And the first thing to notice is that risk isn't just, an on or off switch. It's a spectrum. Way over on one side, you've got activities with basically no risk, things like hugging or abstinence. Then you move into the middle, the some risk zone. This is where things like using condoms come in. They don't eliminate risk, but they reduce it in a huge way. And then all the way on the other end, you have high-risk activities. We're mainly talking about any situation where bodily fluids are exchanged without a barrier.
And I just want to pause on this for a second. This information, this whole risk spectrum, it is not a tool for judging anyone. It's a tool for clarity. The only goal here is to give people the knowledge they need to understand the potential consequences of their choices and to protect themselves and their partners. That's it. Wow, okay, we have covered a ton of ground, haven't we? From the psychology of having the conversation to the nitty-gritty of language and risk. So let's pull it all together into a few key things you can take away and start using right now. So here's the bottom line. First, remember that talking about sex might be hard, but it is a learnable skill. Second, every single good conversation has to be built on that foundation of respect. Just think back to those do's and don'ts. Third, using the right language isn't just about being polite. It's a signal that you're competent and that you understand. And finally, having clear knowledge about risk just empowers everyone involved to make better, healthier choices. I like to think of it as a pyramid. The base, the biggest part, is respect. The next layer up is precise language. And at the very top is practical knowledge. When you build that structure, a conversation that might have felt difficult or awkward completely transforms. It becomes clear, productive, and honestly empowering for everybody.
So I'll just leave you with this question to think about. Now that you have this framework, this pyramid of respect, language, and knowledge, what's one conversation that's now possible for you? A discussion with a client, a friend, a partner, that maybe, just maybe, you would have avoided before today. Thanks for joining me.